What you are looking at here is a 7.62 millimeter 20 round Magpul PMAG that was included with the Colt LE901 rifles from the factory. Over here we have a generation M3 7.62 millimeter Magpul PMAG. It's a 25 round magazine that's been for sale on the commercial market for quite a while. I read that these first hit the market around November of 2012. So what I want to do is show you the differences between the 20 round Magpul PMags that came with the Colt LE901 from the factory and then the standard commercial magazines. The two obvious differences that there are for the Colt factory magazines, or the magazines that came out of the factory with the rifles, is one, the brown packaging. I don't know if that was exclusive to the magazines provided to Colt or if that was just the color in use at the time. I have not been able to find any generational reference for these Colt magazines from PMAG. I don't know if I could call this a generation 1 or an M2 or an M3. Again, there's the brown color that readily makes this stand out. And then on the back, right here, it says PMAG 20LR, then 20 round Colt Spec or Colt Specification. And then this MAG 242 BLK or black is here on the back. So the color, the 20 round Colt Specification designation, and the magazine model number are indicators. The standard commercial magazine, this 25 round one, when you look at the back of it, it doesn't have any specific specification like this Colt one does. It just says PMAG 25 LRSR Gen M3, and then it's got a different magazine model number, MAG 292 BLK. I tried to find more information out on the internet and magazine discussions or whatever about the magazine, the PMAG 7.62 commercial magazines and the Colt ones. All I could find was a couple of discussions on AR15.com, which made me aware several years ago that there was a magazine difference. That's what led me to look after getting that LE901 recently. So other than the packaging differences, one of the things that stands out right away when you look at these magazines side by side is notice that the molded ribbing on the Colt magazine is at an angle, whereas on the commercial M3 magazine, it's horizontal. When you look at the magazines from the front, notice that these ribs on the commercial magazine are thicker or wider than they are on the Colt magazine. Obviously, the front of the magazines are molded different. Again, the M3 on the left and the Colt on the right. When we look at the left side of the magazine, the big difference here is notice on the Colt magazine, the catch for the magazine release is solid. Here on the commercial M3 version, the catch has a U shape to it. And then again, you see the differences in the size and angle of the rib molding. One of the big differences you'll see here on the back, and I'll point it out here in more detail, but you notice the Colt magazine has a more defined spine down the back, whereas the commercial magazine It has the spine that transitions into really what this functions as is a over travel stop right here, and they just carried it the rest of the way down. In a couple of the online discussions that are out there, you'll see mention of this tab on the back of the Colt magazine. From what I understand, the Colt magazines came out from Magpul before the commercial 7.62 magazines did. There were some problems with guns jamming up, and they determined that it was over travel of the magazine going inside the mag well. So to overcome that, this tab was put on the back of the magazines included with the Colt rifles. And then when production was started for the commercial market, they went from that tab design to this thicker, more solid design here. When you look at the base plates, you'll notice the M3 base plate, it's narrower than what's on the Colt magazine. It's not as wide. And your locks for the base plates have a different design to them. Oops. When you look at the followers, you have the M3 on the left, the Colt magazine on the right. The M3's got 7.62 molded here in the front of the follower. The follower is narrower than the Colt magazine follower. This follower is wider. And also notice on the Colt follower, it's got these guides that are following internal ribbing in the magazine. The M3 magazine over here does not have those pronounced followers that stick out there. You'll notice a difference in the shape of the simulated bullet, or whatever you want to call it. On the M3 magazine, that comes up flush with the feed lip. On the Colt magazine, that stops just below the feed lip. Your openings in the follower are in different places also. And then one other thing you'll notice is the protrusion back here that follows the spine of the magazine is narrower on the Colt magazine than it is on the M3 magazine. So that's a quick look at the differences between the Magpul PMAG 7.62 millimeter magazine that came with the Colt LE901 rifles and a commercial Magpul PMAG 7.62 millimeter magazine. Like I said, I could not find any reference to a commercial M1 or M2 magazine in 7.62. The only thing I could find information on was a current M3 magazine. So if anybody out there has a first generation or an M2 7.62 millimeter magazine, please let me know and share what you know, because I am interested in learning more about the Magpul 7.62 millimeter magazines. I'm just what I'm really interested in knowing is did Magpul go from this Colt design straight to the M3, or was there something else between this and the commercial M3 design? So I know this magazine information probably doesn't matter to 99% of you, but for the true diehard Colt collector that might be trying to find a magazine to complete a used LE901 or something, some details to look at. I will do some still photographs with notes and post those on my website so that people can reference those at a later date if you see a magazine at a gun show or something. As always, if you have questions, post them below, and thank you for being here.